You're listening to Platinum Rock Radio. Now it's time for our featured interview with the BABYS, all four members of the band, and going to play you some tracks from their current album, which is called I'll Have Some of That. You heard the title track a little while ago. This is Every Side of You. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to four gentlemen who have got a hell of a name in this business of ours. They collectively are known as the BABYS. So I'd like to introduce you to Joey, Tony, Wally,
Hello.
and John. Hi, guys.
Hey,
Hello.
We're fine over this side of the pond. How's things over on your side?
Live and loud.
Absolutely. Now,
hot and humid.
yeah, it's been hot and humid here as well, I've got to be honest.
If you got your trousers rolled up and the little hanky on your head.
Ah, no, mate, no. All I've got on my head is cans and the obligatory rock denim cut-off shorts.
Oh.
Oh, Daisy Dukes. Very nice.
Yeah, not quite that short.
Good thing.
Yeah,
Good thing.
brave, but not that brave. So things are moving on the BABYS camp, isn't it?
You know, it actually is. We're in the midst of the summer touring season, and we're getting ready to go out again this next week to the beautiful North Carolina area of our country.
Oh, very nice.
To play a couple shows with Jefferson Starship, and then we come back and play a couple local shows with Ambrosia, and then we go back out again to the Midwest, and it's just kind of, weekend warrioring, having a good time with it.
But isn't that the way it goes these days? I mean, most bands are doing this because they want to do it, because, with the industry not being as it was, it's not something anyone's getting rich off quick these days.
You're right. I mean, the weekend warrior trip is a lot easier for us to all get along. I mean, when you're going out and doing the bus tours, there's a lot of expense in that. So, you've got to be playing at least, 3 or 4 shows a week, to go ahead and afford yourself that luxury.
Yeah.
So we've done that a few times over the past couple of years. And lately we've been, either RVing it or getting in, really good passenger vans and going from town to town and then heading back home and then do it again the next week.
Do you find that makes it more exciting to do these days, rather than, say, a 30-day slog, which I presume, back from the days when I was doing it, by the time you got to the 7th or 8th date, you were you're really ready for going home again? You guys have been in the band since the late 70s. How big is the difference between the situation as it was then and now?
Well, the difference is that we're having a good time now. It was okay. When we put the band together in '76, it was great.
Right.
And we were rehearsing in Tooley Street and, going to the Marquee Club and watching Free and
Yeah.
and Zeppelin and everybody. That was our time to have a great experience. And then we went to Canada and made our first record.
Yep.
So with Bob Ezrin. But when we first came to America, we just loved it so much, and they took us in. We were like the first band to ever get a record deal with just a video.
Yeah.
And so that work, and they put a lot of money into us in the beginning. It sort of just took off from there. So we never looked back until we had the gap, from John Waite leaving till us putting the band back together now.
Why did you put the band back together? What was the driving force behind that? I
was speaking to Wally, and I said, I feel like I want to put the band back.
Right.
I feel like both of us said we weren't finished. We just wanted another shot at it, because when John left, he wanted to do his own solo thing, but he didn't really want to do the two projects. They were going to bump into each other.
Right.
So I said to Wally, I'm not going to do it without you, because a lot of people have alluded to the fact that Wally and myself were the sound of the BABYS. Even John Waite said that. So,
right.
And then we started doing auditions and brought Wally in from Florida.
Right. I mean, I've got to be honest. I mean, from my point of view, being a teenager in the 70s, I was alluding to this before we started recording, that the BABYS were a band that we'd heard of, but hadn't heard, because in those days in the late 70s, the UK radio scene was such that you had Tommy Vance on a Friday night on Radio 1 for a couple of hours, and that basically was your lot. I mean, you'd see the band advertised in Sounds magazine, perhaps, but you wouldn't necessarily hear them. In fact, to be perfectly honest, the first time I started hearing about the Babys was hearing Paul Stanley from Kiss talking about you guys in an interview.
Wow.
And yet, these days, people will always refer to the Babys as being a huge influence in them, especially the bands that grew up in the 80s and the AOR bands. And you've only got to listen to the music that you guys have put out over the past, and especially over including the new album, or the current album, I'll Have Some of That, where that is patently obvious that without the Babys being around, music in the 80s would have sounded an awful lot different.
Oh, that's really great of you to say. We've been very lucky to have some success, you know, and we put our own thing into it, and that's what the magic is. And when we brought John Basaha in to sing, and Joey Sykes, and we all we just came together as one band again, and we still sounded like when we left, even better now.
Yeah, you still sound like the Babys.
Yeah, and we made the record sound, you know, like real analog, and just at it really sounded with no digital top end and you know, Pro Tools. We did have when we first got the record deal with Chrysalis, they I mean, we were all over on the red buses. Can you imagine that? A big shot of us on the buses, and so we did have a lot of push. And then, as far as I know, when I talk to my sister, I still hear Every Time I Think of You, or Isn't It Time, every day on the radio,
right
somewhere.
The songs have definitely had that longevity that most bands every band will aspire to. And the difficulty is, when you've got a legacy like that, to come back quite a large number of years later and be relevant can't be that easy. And yet you seem to have managed it really well.
Yeah, this is Walt.
Hello, Walt.
Well, it was a conscious effort as far as the sound. You know, we never wanted to lose the sound. Had we come back with a different sound and a different approach to the songs, I don't think, you know, Tony or myself would have been really, you know, thrilled with that.
Right.
So, you know, we knew it was going to be a challenge after being away for over 30 years, you know, but once we started getting a couple of gigs under our belt, you know, the fans from the early days were coming out. Actually, they were bringing their kids.
Cool.
And so it was almost like we were playing to two generations of Babys fans, you know, kids that grew up with their parents, you know, playing Babys records in the house, and it sort of, you know, sort of spun over to them, and so of course they're coming to the shows now with their parents. You know, we knew it was going to be a rough ride to begin with, because you know, we were hoping that we hadn't been forgotten, and we wanted to bring the music back, you know, our catalogue, and because they're such good songs, and you know, they hadn't really been played for so many years that you know, that was part of the plan to bring it back. And you know, and so now when we play live, we actually have a 7-piece band now with keyboards and the Babettes. So with the two ladies and the keyboards and two guitars and bass and drums, it's you know, it's as close as the record as you can get, you know, as far as getting the songs across, you know, and very full sound. And you know, we didn't want to cut corners on the sound and, you know, basically boil it down to just a 4-piece band, because our songs really call for, you know, strings and horns and female singers. So, that's how we wanted to present this new band, with the best sound we could get, and the fullest sound, and do those songs justice.
Now, most bands, and a lot of bands that I've seen of recent, would have gone down a much easier route than the one that you guys have taken, which is lots and lots of backing tracks, which is something you guys aren't doing. I mean, you've got the live vocals, you've got the keyboards, you can produce the sounds that are on the record live on the stage. I presume that's much more rewarding than singing to a backing tape.
Yeah, well, it's if you can do it, if you're physically able to do it, and you could, have that many pieces on stage, then it's a lot more fun when everyone comes together and plays the stuff live. And the BABYS was so unique, the music was so the band was very unique, coming out with everyone looking like a cool rock star, but yet the songs were so, I mean, you can't go wrong with great songs.
No.
And it's that's the one thing I think about the BABYS that can hold the test of time whenever we play live or whenever you listen to the records. And that's the formula. Great songs, and do those old catalog songs justice, and playing them live is definitely the way to go.
Yeah, but you're not just concentrating on that. I mean, let's go back to 2014's album. I'll have some of that. I mean, the three tracks that I'm most familiar with, Every Side of You and Not Ready to Say Goodbye, are great tracks, including the third one I was going to mention, which is I See You There, which really do stand up to the legacy as well. I mean, they do not sound out of place when compared to the back catalogue.
Joey is responsible for most of the writing on that, and John was the lyrics. And but we all put our thing into it, and we were making sure that we were still sounding like the BABYS. We were obviously going to branch out a little bit, because we got new singer and new guitarist, and they're going to have their influences.
Yeah,
but we had to keep it because I think that's why we've been accepted again, is because our songs have always been really good and special, and we got this sort of cult thing going where people respect us as musicians.
Yeah,
we don't write a song just to have a hit.
No,
it's and that's obvious, and we write a song because we're really proud of it. And we're just getting ready now to release another video and put that all together.
Which track are you redoing? Which track are you doing the video for?
Not Ready to Say Goodbye.
Oh, great track!
Yeah.
I mean,
it's going to be a really cool video. And for me, I was lucky enough to have a blueprint, of what I was writing, just knowing the BABYS catalog so well. And it was funny because every time I was writing a track, I just would have Tony's drums in my mind and Wally's guitar, and I'd be at my home studio, demoing the song and like ripping off Wally Stocker, to show him the song. So it was pretty cool.
Is that a weird thing to experience, Wally, when you've got a new guitarist who knows you that well?
I wouldn't say weird, no. Actually, it's quite humbling and very flattering. No, he's a good lad, Joey. We work as a team, I just enjoy his playing, and we work off of each other.
Right.
Kind of a Ronnie and Keith kind of situation,
Okay. Yeah.
We've been having a lot of fun with it.
It sounds like you've had a lot of fun with it, because there are many bands out there that go down the paint by numbers system for doing an album. And this certainly isn't that. I mean, one of the things that you do recognise sitting this side of a microphone, because you get sent so much stuff across, is you really do pick out those painted by the numbers bands. So when I heard the BABYS stuff and it really leapt out the speakers and grabs your attention, it's difficult these days when there's so much music out there to stand head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, it is. It's quite a task to get, with all the information that's out there, to try to, like you said, stand above the rest and try to get people's attention and come to see you play live and buy the record and basically even just care about it. It's hard. It's hard to get that.
It's nice to know that there is a band of the calibre of the BABYS still out there and still rocking.
Yeah, thanks.
I think that's what
thank you.
sets us apart from anybody, any of the other ones that are out there that, come from the 70s and the 80s ilk, if you will. A lot of them are still out there just, playing to the catalog, and, certainly we're doing the same thing. But the real deal is, we wanted to be relevant again, and being gone for 30 plus years really lent itself to, we need to be out there. It was almost cart before the horse. You'd get the booking company saying, well, what are you out there supporting? Yeah. And then you'd get the record company saying, where are you playing gigs? Right. And so we definitely needed to bring that album together. And that album was anything but, conventionally put together. I mean, it was a whirlwind of 2 months getting everything, put together, mixed and mastered, and we auditioned songs from, Joey having a lot of complete songs, me having a few complete songs, to a bunch of songs that Tony and Wally had instrumentally written back when the Babies had just broken up. So it's a nice smorgasbord of, stuff that's 30 plus years old and stuff that was, 2 weeks old and in the can. To make it all sound seamless was a very, good Herculean effort. And produced it in his studio, and I think we did a wonderful job in getting that done, especially given basically a 6-week time frame to cut everything, and we had 2 weeks to mix and master it. So
that's not bad going.
Labor of quick love.
That is not bad going at all. Actually, I mean, there are bands out there that take months and months over an album.
Years.
Yeah.
Years. Yeah. What I remember, Wally and I were lucky enough to. Well, I was with Rod Stewart,
right,
and I was with him for 12 years. Wally was with him for a couple, and we took one album, and it took a year and a half.
Right.
There was a lot of drinking going on in between, but
well, I can imagine why with Mr. Stewart. Yes, he does.
Well, we built our own bar in the studio, so that was the big first mistake.
Yeah, he does like a sherbet every now and again, doesn't he?
Oh, yes.
So what does the future hold for the Babies? I mean, we're not that far away from the last album. Are you in process of writing again, or are you concentrating more on the live scene these days?
I think we're all sort of writing little bits here and there. Wally will come up with a little riff, and I'll start playing a groove that I think's different, a little bit different, because I've always been a John Bonham sort of freak, and he always did something different. So I try to put that towards what Wally comes up with, and then that's already started to happen in rehearsals.
That's cool.
And John and the keyboard player, Joey, we've all got little bits and pieces. And that's how it all comes together, from just a little gem of a riff, and then John's really quick at putting a lyric together and a vocal, and then it takes a life of its own.
So we're not going to be waiting another protracted length of time for the next album, then?
We're not what?
You're not going to be. It's not going to be another 30 years before the next record, then.
Oh no,
I'm doubtful on that. I'm sure there'll be another Babies album sooner than 30 years from now. Otherwise, it'd be coming from the grave.
Oh, well, I wasn't going to say that. I thought that was a bit cruel. But
I haven't got a wheelchair that'll last another 30 years.
You don't. Well, mind you, though, you could probably get away with that sitting behind the drum kit. But how he did a kick drum, I don't know.
I just jump up and down.
Gentlemen, it's been a great pleasure having you on the programme. Thank you so much for coming on. And
thank you, Paul.
Best of luck for the future. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you, Paul.
Why listen to a band that takes off the Babies when you can actually listen to the Babies? My thanks to the guys for coming in and doing the interview. Really, really enjoyable chatting to them. And also thanks to Jenn Mitchell for setting it all up for me, who is their PR. Well done, Jenn. Thank you so very much indeed. If you'd like to get your hands on a copy of the current album, you can, of course, get yourself a copy from thebabysofficial.com. That's thebabysofficial.com. And if you like AOR and songs with soul and a bit of heart, then the Babies are the band for you. Great stuff.